Welcome, everyone, to episode 67 of the Thundercraps podcast, where we forge through the shitstorm that was WCW Thunder. Hooty-oo! I am your host, Josh Kaiser, and joining me today, the 11th highest grossing entertainer in the world, Kyle Hoagland.
I can't believe Mean Gene felt that was important to say. By the way, you took my welcoming. I was gonna give a big hooty hoo to the No Limit soldiers out there, but what is going on? Dude, I don't even. To be fair, I have no tease to even go into this episode. I have nothing.
To be fair, I had to steal hooty hoo as my entrance because this is a pre-taped episode that was pre-taped prior to a pay-per-view that has happened since this episode. The episode airs, but it was taped beforehand. Yeah, it's one of those weeks, so it's going to be one of those Thunders. Let's just. It
most certainly is, and I mean, like I said, we'll go through everything. I feel like these are the type of episodes where if there was like a podcast, Lifetime Achievement Award, this is the episode right here. If there was like a resume to put our hat in the ring, it's this episode.
Yes, yeah, this is the one. This is going, if there's the Emmy version of a podcast award, this is going to be it. I mean, breaking down Thunder 67, June 17th, 1999.
We are so brave.
Here we go. We are pre-taped from Syracuse, New York. Tanae's going to fire us all up. He lets us know Sid Vicious is back, Kyle. Of course, Great American Bash is in the rearview mirror. Sid Vicious returned. He is part of Team Madness. He may have been the limo driver or the Hummer driver. We're not sure. And he's after that title, so he's joined Savage, who was going for the title, and now he also wants the title. I don't get it, but that's the story. And
you would think, don't you think that would be like the last thing you'd want to join your team? Like, oh, I want the title, so I'm going to enlist in the work, in the services of Sid Vicious, who now also wants the world title.
Right. Yeah. But that's where we're at. As you expect, the pre-taped Thunder, it's going to be a lot of matches. So let's just hope they're good matches. And we open up tonight, Bobby Duncombe Jr. and Curt Hennig versus a Texas Hangman. So you might know Bobby Duncombe Jr. and Curt Hennig as the heels that have been foiling the plans of Ray and Conan, hating on Rap, hating on the No Limit Soldiers, wrestling the Texas Hangmen, who are also heels. So this match has a lot to digest. We learned why we're calling the one guy the No Limit Soldier Swole, as Larry Zbyszko tries to break it down for us. And both tag teams, of course, as heels try to get the heat in this match. They use their cowl ropes. They talk shit to the crowd. Henningplex is going to win it for Duncombe and Hennig here. I gave the match 2 stars. I thought it was fine for what it was as a tag match, but why are they on a pre-tape show booking heel versus heel here?
And I'm afraid it's going to continue somewhat like that a couple more times in this match or in this show. I gave it 2 stars as well. I thought it was actually half decent. I'm still very shocked that of all the tag teams that are going to get put together, it's going to be the 2 that have bull ropes, where each of them had their own bull ropes in their own corners.
Yeah, it's like you're not going to put Gallagher in a match against another guy who's gimmick.
The other Gallagher too. Yeah, Gallagher versus Gallagher too. No, you're not going to do that. That's too much. That's too much watermelon. But I liked it. Hennig looked good when he gets to be the guy squashing somebody. Where it just looked like a classic. Like if you were to have all of Hennig's matches and then have a bot like watch all of them and then spit out a script, this felt like your classic Curt Hennig match. And he did. There was nothing wrong with that. I mean, the formula works. It's fine. Duncan was there. He was a little sloppy, but passable. And I believe it's Mean Mike who's one of the hangmen. I can't remember 100%. But yeah, I'm okay with this being the first match, even though I'm not okay with the booking.
Yeah, that's fair. After the match, Conan and Ray, of course, are going to come in and get their attack as we continue to push their feud here. We then go to our first replay of the night. It's Piper and Flair. Of course, you remember they wrestled at Great American Bash for the rights to who's going to control WCW in the match. Buff Bagwell is going to come out. He's going to help Piper. Piper is then going to turn on Buff Bagwell as they beat down on Buff. We then see on Nitro, Flair has asked Piper to be his vice president of the world. So now we do have the president and vice president of the world here. Dean Malenko's going to come out, says he's speaking for all the young guys that these old legends are putting down. It says that they need to step down and show class like other legends in, other sports, like the Gretzky's.
Isn't Dean Malenko like in his late 30s in this point?
This leads to brawls breaking out with
balls
Buff.
Everywhere. Yes.
Yeah. So that's kind of what's going on there. We move to our next match of the night. The heel, Shawn Michaels wannabe Scotty Riggs against the heel, Shawn Michaels wannabe Disco Inferno.
Are you really going to go as far as saying that, look, we can say what we want about Scotty Riggs, but you got to give, as infamous as the Disco Inferno character is, there's nobody like the Disco Inferno. There's nobody. That's not an HBK ripoff. I know what you're trying to do. I know what you're trying to get at, but I figured you'd be like this, the narcissist Scotty Riggs versus Disco Inferno. But it's Scotty Riggs still has the he doesn't have his own, I guess, look identity. So he's just going to borrow 5 of them. Yep. Yeah.
So he's got the mirror here. Disco Inferno is going to respect the mirror and the narcissism, if you will. Again, another heel versus heel match here, which doesn't make sense to me. We do find out, though, later tonight we're going to get a replay of an 8-man tag match that happened on Nitro, so we got that to look forward to. During this match, there's a sunset flip from the outside into the ring where I think it's Disco who does the sunset flip, overpowers Scotty Riggs and curls him up. Have you ever seen a match actually end in a 3 count like that?
A sunset flip? No.
Yeah. So I don't know why.
It's kind of like the backslide.
Right. But we've seen a backslide actually end in a 3 count.
Yeah, and we lost our fucking shit when we saw it, dude.
Which is why the day a sunset flip wins, I'm going to lose my shit. That says Scotty Riggs has a couple drop kicks in here, which he is being pushed heavily for, is his amazing drop kick. Disco Inferno, though, he's going to hit on the old last dance, if you will. And he's going to be your winner. The crowd's going to be hot for him because he's a heel, but he's beating up on a heel they hate more. I gave the match 2 stars. I'm just still confused by the booking decisions here as far as why we're having all heels wrestle each other.
I agree. I thought about lowering the match because of, once again, the poor booking. But I actually really enjoyed this match. It was fun enough to watch. I gave it 2.5 stars. There were enough shenanigans and decent wrestling wrapped together to actually make this decent television material. Really no screw ups, fluid wrestling, nice back and forth, a couple of close 2 counts. I think both guys got their signature moves in. I think both of them got their chances to try and, I guess, be charismatic, and by that I mean Disco's charismatic enough. That's one thing you got to give Disco. He's fun to watch for the most part. He's a pretty decent performer from a non-wrestling perspective. Even though I would probably say he's an adequate to middling wrestler, I think Scotty Riggs is probably a more fluid, I guess, more skilled wrestler in the ring, but not by much. And definitely the charisma goes over to Disco Inferno. But yeah, overall, I was okay with the match. I agree with you. This is the second match in a row where it's heel versus heel, so the crowd kind of just has to cheer on whoever they think is probably just more entertaining, or someone that probably ultimately is going to have more of a career.
Yeah, better known.
Sadly, Disco Inferno is better known.
After this, we get our Master P promo here. We see a replay from the opening of Great American Bash where Curt Hennig runs into Master P, tells him how much of a fan he is, how much he loves his music, asks for a signed CD, which he then proceeds to break in front of his face. This leads to the No Limit Soldiers interfering in the match with helping Conan and Ray win. We then cut to a press conference led by Mean Gene, where Bischoff is there, Ray and Conan are there as Master P is signing with WCW. And I gotta admit, hearing Mean Gene say, as he goes on and talks all about, Master P and, all of his accolades and saying his hit, Miss My Homies, it made me pop. It just cracked me up hearing Mean Gene say "Miss My Homies." Master P then is going to talk, and he's a big wrestling fan as he continues to say wrestling the whole time during that segment.
I bet you every time he said it, Ted Turner jizzed in his jeans. And also, did Eric Bischoff look like he needs some like sleep? That dude just looks like he had been up for 4 straight days on a bender, and then they just like dragged him out and put him here in this. He just didn't look like his normal self, his like normal. Because once again, there is the difference between being like the executive or whatever, the president of WCW, the real one, all right, not the Ric Flair version, the real one, and the guy who's working behind the scenes, and the guy who's
trying to say. I'm trying to say.
I'm sorry. Am I breaking fourth wall here? I'm so sorry. But I just thought that Eric Bischoff, there were many times during this where when he was talking, I thought he was going to corpse it, because I think he was also talking about like, Master P brings, his music is a very positive influence on younger people. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm proud of this because I enjoyed him back in 1998. I owned Master P's CD. I actually like it. It is not a very positive CD. And in the terms of like, there's nothing about, saving a school or building churches in Mexico. So that was funny to me. And I think as Eric Bischoff it's kind of like Mean Gene. Like, I think both of them are talking via a script, working on material that they know absolutely nothing about. And I think Eric did not as good a job as Mean Gene trying to sound legit and saying like, oh, I've done my research. Whereas when Bischoff was talking, it looked like he was just kind of like, he was fighting laughter in between sentences. And also, I don't want to call you out, Eric, and whatever, but you just did not look like you're ready to be on television. You look tired. You look disheveled. You just didn't look like your normal charismatic self.
Damn, just calling out the former president, right?
Correct. That's why Flair got the job.
Yeah, exactly. After this, we get our next match of the night. We've got the babyface Evan Courageous wrestling the babyface Prince Iaukea, because that's what we're doing tonight. We have, I guess this is my match of the night with Courageous and Iaukea, but I don't have a whole lot to say about the match itself. Most of the conversation from commentary is discussing the young bloods, and the old guys, and how Tenay, believes that, Flair and Piper need to kind of step aside and let some of the young talent rise up, whereas Zbyszko is defending them. But I feel like Zbyszko is supposed to be a face commentator, and I feel like him taking the side of the heel legends doesn't make sense here. Is it just me?
Well, it makes sense enough where he's also a legend. He's the living legend.
That's fair, so, but I feel like the storyline, they could have swung it away where Larry could have said, "Look, I'm a legend, and I knew when it was time to step down. These guys need to respect the same thing. That at some point we need to, let the next generation come up." And then boom, you sold the story. You continue to push the heels, and you continue to keep yourself a face like you're supposed to be.
No, I agree. I think he was just kind of acting like a fucking boomer and was just being like, hey, in my day, you had to wrestle for 10 years. 10 years to get your
insane. I cannot wait till Larry Zbyszko is off commentary.
You know what drives me nuts more, and I've been letting it go for many, many episodes where I'm just like, that's just Larry. He's very technical. He's a wrestler, so he's trained and he knows what he's talking about. I'm never going to say that Larry Zbyszko doesn't have credibility, but I am now officially sick of Larry critiquing every pinning attempt. Every single time someone tries to make a pin.
That was part of it too. Yes.
Like, he's not putting enough weight on that shoulder. Like, he should be hooking that opposite leg.
If he were a real veteran, he would spend more time in the ring and learn how to properly hook a leg.
Or it's like, he has that sleeper, but he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that arm under the chin properly. Like, dude, shut the fuck up, man. It takes me out of the element of watching fake wrestling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? God. When he's trying to make it too literal. Like, we get it, dude. Like, we know that it's predetermined. You don't need to be like, if he pinned him this way, he would have won. No, he wouldn't have, dude, because that's not how the script's written.
That said, Evan Courageous is going to actually slide around Prince Iaukea and curl him up for the 3 count. I did give the match 2.25 stars. I thought it was an entertaining match, and I kind of appreciated that the match was won with like a curl attempt, kind of like out of nowhere. Like, I appreciate that once in a while they do that to kind of keep you on your toes. So for that, 2.25 stars.
Sure. At the same time, I kind of wanted to remember. I was actually rooting for Prince Iaukea to win because I wanted to be reminded what his finisher was. Yeah, I gave it 2.25. Nice work rate. I think you kind of said the same thing. The match was pretty decent. You can tell they want to gauge Evan Courageous a little bit and see if they have something there. Whether is the crowd, kind of reacting positively to him. And once again, you can shit on people. Can want to shit on Prince Iaukea. I think that's just I feel bad because I don't mind Prince Iaukea in the ring. Or let's put it this way: there are way more wrestlers that I'd rather not see going through like a workhorse type of match than Prince Iaukea. Him having the TV title was probably one of the biggest, travesties of WCW. But it did create one of my favorite, Thundercraft's memes, and they did finally let us know that he is a former television champion after like probably the last 2 matches. They just never bothered to mention it. So I'm glad that Tenay was there to school us again on that. But once again, this is just, Prince Iaukea falling more and more into obscurity, which for some of you, maybe you like that. You want him to just fall into obscurity. To me, I just would love to see Prince Iaukea have a slightly different attitude. Like you ever have those like face characters that are like they're not faces, they're just wrestlers. Like they're not bad guys, so therefore they're faces. But he's not even really a good guy or a bad guy. He's just Prince fucking Iaukea. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with Prince Iaukea is that he doesn't get pops. He doesn't like try to like get pops from the crowd. He doesn't try to get heat from the crowd. He just fucking wrestles like he's Dean goddamn Malenko, and he's not Dean Malenko. So I think that's the thing that really is hurting Prince Iaukea is that he is just a fucking, he's just a wet blanket of a wrestler with, half decent to decent work rate. But he needs something. He needs he needs to talk to Scotty Riggs. He needs to borrow one of his many identities.
Well, I got news for you. At some point in the future, that Prince Iaukea will get a new gimmick. So, ask and you shall receive.
Hold on. Does he become like the artist formerly known as?
Yes.
Oh fuck me, he does, doesn't he? Yeah, that's right. Okay, all right. I'm looking forward to that. No, I'm looking forward to that. Because at least we have something else to talk about. We'll have something else to fucking talk about.
We'll see. The former television champion and artist, the former artist and television champion, right?
The artist formerly known as the world television champion.
Right. After this, we got our next match of the night: La Parka and Silver King in tag action against Brian Knobbs and Hugh Morris. So this is a match that's happening. We do find out, though, that on Nitro, all through the summer, we're getting a music festival. We got the DJ. Surge is coming, Kyle. It's going to be quite the whole get up there in Nitro. We also find out Dennis Rodman is signed back with WCW, so we'll see what he's into. Mike Tenay mentions that the 4 men in this match have all proven their way in the hardcore division. So I would buy it for Brian Knobbs. Hugh Morris, maybe, but I gotta admit, I did not know La Parka and Silver King had made their way in the hardcore division.
Well, Hugh Morris did have a match with, I think it was Hack, where he went. Remember we made fun of how he fell through a table, where he just kind of jumped into a table. That was Hugh Morris. He was in a hardcore match, so we'll give it to him.
As for this match, or actually, I should also say, Mike Tenay let us know that Sequel Play was involved in, quote, one of the most memorable hardcore matches of all time, unquote.
Oh, no, everybody here remembers that fateful Nitro where it was La Parka and Silver King versus Cyclope, and who the fuck was his tag partner? It was a tag match with all these guys, but it was Cyclope and Damien? I think it was Damien. And I don't remember the match, obviously, but Tenay seems to be all about it. And now I almost kind of want to watch Nitro just to kind of like see if I'm on the same hype train.
That said, Jimmy Hart's going to distract the ref in this match. There's chair shots to La Parka and Silver King. Ultimately, a no laughing matter. I'm going to give the match 2 stars. I thought it was fine for what it was, but it wasn't anything special. And you're going to disagree a little bit with me on that one.
I think I looked at this from a like entertaining from television standpoint. I gave it 2.5 stars. I was pleasantly surprised with the match. They gave it a decent amount of time, about 8 minutes, because it was actually fun to watch. You still had your traditional tag match, but I think that, introducing, Brian Knobbs' kind of hardcore aspect into it. We got to see Pity City. We got to see some pretty stiff chair shots. So there was definitely some stiff offense in this match, but on top of that, you had a couple of nice moves from the top rope. I think everybody in this match has just a very slightly different way to wrestling style, and I think all of them used it, and so that was kind of come together. Clearly, La Parka and Silver King are not going to go over, but they did look good. They looked like, when I first saw this lineup, I thought that Hugh Morris and because they have more of a story with the First Family and yada, 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 I thought they were just going to squash the shit out of them. But that wasn't the case. They actually had it like an 8.5 minute match where there was some decent back and forth. And really, it just came down to, Brian Knobbs turning the hardcore level up a notch while Jimmy Hart does the distraction. So I feel like everybody in the match, including Jimmy Hart, played a decent role in how the match, kind of flowed in and concluded. So, for that, I had to give it some credit, where it just didn't feel like just, two dudes just beating up on two dudes. This felt decently choreographed, and I was surprised by that. So 2.5.
After this, fireworks are going off. It's time for the main event. We've got the return of Booker T, who I didn't realize was returning from anything. I thought he'd already returned. Did
you also kind of just first notice that when you see the fireworks going off and you're like, there's still 30 minutes left on the show?
Yes. I was curious what the main event was. It's Booker T and Barbarian, which is a main event anywhere you go these days, right?
If that doesn't scream 30-minute Iron Man match, I don't know what does.
The match, though, I actually, I said Evan Courageous and Prince Iaukea may have been match of the night. Up until this point, I actually think this was the best match of the night. I think they gave it some time, which you don't see in a Barbarian match. I was kind of impressed. This might have been this might be my favorite Barbarian match, which, I get it. The bar is low.
What was your favorite Barbarian match?
Probably the one where him and Ming turned on each other.
Oh, I thought you were going to be like the one where he kicks Mario Jannetty's head off, because that's my favorite Barbarian match.
No, speaking of kicking heads off here, Booker T gives a Harlem sidekick to Barbarian, which looked pretty stiff, and Barbarian took it well. Booker T's going to go for the axe kick, but Jimmy Hart's going to grab his leg and prevent it. Barbarian's going to Irish whip Booker T into the corner. He's going to hop up, curl up the Barbarian, and get the 3 count. So I gave the match 2.5 stars. I thought it was good back and forth. I thought it made Barbarian look good, and I really liked the finish. Had they not just done a curl-up finish earlier in the night, does anybody not communicate how other matches are going to end on the same show?
I mean, it could be worse. You could have had a Fit Finlay match followed by a Mongo McMichael match. It's not like we had that happen once. I also gave this 2.5 stars. I give a lot of credit to this match to the Barbarian. He did a very good job putting over Booker T. Barbarian did actually look good in the loss, and which in turn makes Booker T look even better in a return. I also agree with you. I had no idea Booker T was on the shelf in any way, shape, or form, because they never fucking mentioned it once on Thunder. I will say this though. I agree. I know you have like a Goldust penis boner about matches that end in a surprise roll up or something like that, because it's something you don't see every day. It's not the normal formula of Hulk up, punch, leg drop for the win, and it just always seems to happen that way. But at the same time, Booker T has won this way multiple times now with that exact roll up, to the point where it almost feels like a finisher. I think I actually went back. I was just taught, this is how much of a nerd I am. The last 5 matches that we reviewed of Booker T, you want to know how many times he won via the roll up?
How many?
4. 4 out of the 5.
So is that his finisher?
That's his finisher at this point. The last 4 months, he's wrestled 5 times because he was injured for 2 months apparently, and he's had 4 roll-ups and 1 missile dropkick win. So, I'm sorry, 3 roll-ups, 1 missile dropkick, 1 DQ. So that's why I'm like, it feels like maybe this is his finisher roll up. Maybe like it's almost like that's his maybe his corner finisher if you were playing like an N64 game. That type of that's I think that type of level of finisher, because so far he's batting 1,000 with that as being a finisher.
Yeah, well, good for him. So after the match, we're not done with Thunder, even though that was our main event, quote unquote. We go to our third replay of the night. It's the Savage versus Nash match from Great American Bash. But unlike our other previous Great American Bash clips, we're going to get just still photos. We find out that, of course, Savage's women were involved in the match. Savage actually hits the top rope elbow, but Nash is going to kick out. He's going to hit the powerbomb. Of course, this is going to bring out Sid Vicious. He has joined Team Savage. We then cut to clips from Nitro where Savage, with the ladies, says he has, one word for all of you, vicious, because, Sid.
I get it.
Nash is going to come out, says he wants to kick Sid's ass, which, is not allowed to be said on Thunder. He even comments on his own sweet sandals, which I wish I had seen. We then see Sid cutting a promo in the backstage and says, "You've invited the devil to dance tonight." Then it cuts to clips from what was apparently the match, but it's ultimately Nash getting double teamed by Savage and Sid.
I kind of want that NWO tie-dye shirt.
Oh, dude, I thought the same thing. I thought the thing
that looked
really
cool.
But needless to say, that's your replay.
You know what my favorite thing about this whole thing is? I love Sting when he comes into the ring to make a save, because he always comes down to the ring with the bat and then doesn't use the bat. He comes down and he's holding the bat in his left hand, but he's delivering right hands punches to everybody. And I'm just like, dude, you have a weapon. Fucking use it, dude.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, it doesn't make any sense. We then go to our fourth replay of the night. This is going to be, I guess, our real main event. We've got the 8-man tag match from Nitro. It's DDP, Kanyon, Ric Flair, and Roddy Piper versus Buff and the Radicals. Benoit is basically the star of these clips. He wrestles in the majority of this match. There's a cool spot where all four people, all 8 men are involved in a figure 4, which I thought was neat to see. It eventually breaks down to everyone battling, and then Buff Bagwell continues to get his push as he's going to hit the blockbuster on Flair and get the 3 count, and that's how we fade to black. That was your main event. That was your pre-taped Thunder 67. What did you think?
Let's just be clear here. You can say what you want about the overall match quality of the show, which I think I see your. I also read your overall thoughts, but I feel like sometimes what you wrote isn't exactly kind of like what you conveyed on the show. I think we can honestly say the match quality. We can talk about the booking all we want. The booking was shit, but I think the quality of what the guys did in the ring, I think, was actually above average to what I expected if I saw this card. So for that, I'll say, look, you can say what you want about that. You can say what you want about all the informative recap. We had Great American Bash video footage. We had stills. We had a lot of Nitro recap. This is all pretty standard pre-tape stuff. But here's the bottom line. You had 5 matches on Thunder, and you barely had enough to cover the first hour of a 2-hour show. That's egregious. That is not. How in the world do you get away with basically having 45 minutes of nothing to give us? So instead you're like, let's just throw in like a couple extra recaps, and then a recap of a match that wasn't important. If you're going to say, hey, we're going to show you the recap of this really important, you would think if they're going to give you the full match of something on Nitro, you would think, oh, this has got to mean something, right? Like maybe a world title changed hands, or someone gets fired, maybe somebody is retiring, or whatever the case may be. No, this was a throwaway 8-man tag, as good as maybe the match was, which it was fine. There was nothing. There's nothing about it that screams, man. You know what's really going to bump up the ratings on Thunder is if we replay that 8-man tag match as the main event. And so there were a lot of production decisions, booking the actual, like, you know how, like, if you're doing a TV show, you might have a rundown maybe on the wall being like, okay, you know, from hour blah, blah or minute whatever to minute this is going to be with Evan Courageous and Prince Iaukea. Then we're going to do we're going to do like this video package. We'll do this recap. That setup, that decision making is probably some of the worst I've ever seen. And then on top of that, you couldn't even fit what you wanted to fit into a pre-tape show. Just there's no excuse for that.
Yeah. I mean, this was a rough one. This, and I hinted around it at the beginning of the show. You've got a pre-taped episode of Thunder that is occurring after a pay-per-view, even though it was taped prior to a pay-per-view. And this is what you're going to get. But I'm fine that you treat it like a Saturday night where you can't have any real storyline take place. You just have some matches. But they could have booked better matches. And they did.
They could have booked more matches. They had 5 matches.
Well, that too. Yeah, I mean, you don't... If I'm watching Nitro in 1999, and I should say this. If I'm watching Thunder in 1999, I'm definitely watching Nitro in 1999. So I don't need to see the replay of the fucking main event. I'm assuming it was main event from 3 days prior to. You don't need to show me that again. I'm turning the television off. Even though I want to stay and watch Chimp Channel afterwards, I'm going to turn it off and I'm going to come back and watch Chimp Channel.
Amen.
That said, that is our show. Hopefully you haven't turned us off to watch Chimp Channel. But if you have, and you need to come back, go subscribe. Follow us. Let us know how we're doing. Leave us that rating. Follow us on social media, on Twitter, on the Facebook, all of that. And, of course, you can always go to thundercraps.com for all of our episodes. And then, June 24th, 1999, Thunder 68. It's going to be live. Maybe it'll be better than this. It can't be worse, I don't think. Well, maybe it can. But check it out. And we'll be back next week to break it down. For Kyle Hogan, I'm Josh Kaiser, and we will see you next time on the Thundercraps podcast.
Mirror, mirror on the wall. We are hooty-hooingly out of time. See ya.